Hey, what's up, guys? This is Benny Ricciardi with rotocurve.com, and I'm here with our DraftKings NBA picks for Monday, November 23rd. There's only a 7 game slate we have on tonight, and there's actually only one game with a total that's over 200. That's going to be the Sacramento and Charlotte game. And there are a couple guys in this game that I think we should be looking at. Obviously, Boogie Cousins, anytime he steps out on the floor, is somebody who can get you a double double and a big like 20 and 15 kind of double double. So he's somebody you should look at. His price is getting a little expensive. He's up over $10,000 right now, and remember, he's listed as a power forward now over on DraftKings. But obviously, he's somebody that we got to mention. He's one of the guys that I would consider paying up for today. His teammate Rajon Rondo is now up to $9,000. It's getting tougher and tougher to pay up for this guy, but every game he's going out and putting up 40 fantasy points, near triple double. I think I'm going to kind of be staying away from him for the most part, but if you can afford to get up and pay for him, again, I mean, he's been putting up 40 fantasy points. You really can't argue with that. If Rudy Gay's out, I think we also got to look at Omri Caspi here today. Caspi is a little bit less than $5,000, and whenever Gay is out and he sees 30 minutes, he basically puts up between like 27 and 35 fantasy points. So if he's going to get you a guaranteed 5.5 to 6x on his salary, I think he's definitely somebody that you have to keep in consideration, especially in a high total game like this, a game that's supposed to be paced up a little bit. I don't know if you can actually pace up Sacramento. I think they might be either the fastest or one of the top 3 in the league right now. So they already play at a fast pace, but I think this is going to be a game where they see a lot of points put up, especially if Rudy Gay's out. I really like that Caspi play. Looking down at that Charlotte team, there's a couple guys there. Al Jefferson is only 6,400. His minutes have come up, so where he's playing around 30, maybe even more than 30. I know he had a really soft matchup last game, so I'm not going to get too crazy about the huge number that he put up against, I think it was against Philly. He had like 50. But again, at 6,400, really he only needs like 30 to 35 fantasy points for you. And I think he has the ability to do 30 to 40 fantasy points in this matchup, being paced up against Sacramento. As much as we love Boogie Cousins, he's not a great defensive player. So I do think Al Jefferson is somebody you can look at. I also kind of like Marvin Williams in this spot. There's probably no Cody Zeller in this game again. And when we see no Cody Zeller, we do see a couple extra minutes from Marvin Williams. Williams' price has come up a little bit, so he's no longer that cheap $4,000 guy that we were getting earlier in the year. But I still think he makes sense in this spot. And PJ Hairston is out again. I think Jeremy Lin is actually starting now. And you also have Jeremy Lamb. They're both at like 4,500, which is a little bit too cheap for those guys. I think there's still some upside left in them. I think I like Lynn more than Lamb at the moment if Hairston's out, because I think he gets a little bit more consistent minutes. But Jeremy Lamb can score too. He's a guy that, might also be in play as well if you're looking to add some more guys in this game, which is again, the highest total game on the board here today. So moving on down from there, that's the game that I wanted to talk about. And then there are some other specific spots that I think we can target today that can help you put together some really nice lineups. One of the teams I think I want to be looking at is that Cleveland Cavs team. Mozgov is out with an injury, and if Mo Williams is out as well, there's going to be a lot of minutes there for some of the guards, and there's a couple guys in those spots that have been playing a lot of minutes. You got Matthew Dellavedova, who's in the low 4K range. He's been doing enough to pay off his salary lately with the additional minutes he's been getting. Definitely think he's somebody that you guys can look at and consider in this game. You got J.R. Smith, who's been playing a lot of minutes lately, and for some reason they're slow to raise his price. He's only priced at about 4,800. He's been putting up numbers in the mid to high 20s every game, so he's going to be getting you 5 to 6 times value right there, and helping you save some money at a hard to fill shooting guard spot. So I really like that as well. And then Tristan Thompson. Last game when Mozgov was out, people were talking about Varejao, and I said, hey, for the most part, you're going to see a lot of Tristan Thompson. Tristan Thompson is probably the best big man that they have that plays inside. You got Love, who's out on the perimeter. Not knocking Love. I actually like Love a lot. But the best guy that they have to play inside is Tristan Thompson. So I think instead of just trying to go Varejao, they're going to be rotating guys like Thompson and Varejao and all them in. And Thompson's still going to be getting some time on the floor with some of those big guys in the second unit. So Thompson is the guy I like the most. He's 5,300. He put up a monster game the other night. I think he went like 7 or 8 times value with like 35 to 40 fantasy points. And he actually could have had a bigger game. He actually didn't play a ton in the fourth quarter. So, he's definitely somebody in play. I think you can like those guys on Cleveland, and I would be looking to get a couple of them in my lineups. Looking at that Knicks team, Jose Calderon is 3,800 and is playing like 25 to 35 minutes. He actually had a game where he put up 30 last week. He's been putting up a consistent 20, 25 points. And for 3,800, that's all you need. So unless I read that wrong, I think he's priced a little bit too low today. He should be somebody that would be in my lineup. I also really like Porzingis. I mean, let's talk about this because I was one of the guys at the beginning of the year who said he's a nice player, but it seems like he's more of just like a role player. After watching that game the other day, like this kid could be a star. I mean, he's 7'2" or something like that. He could play center. He can step outside. The thing I like about him is he's aggressive, and I didn't realize he was going to be when he came into the league because a lot of the European players really aren't that aggressive. They're a little passive early on, but he's trying to dunk on people. He's got that fire that you want to see out of one of the stars on your team. So I'm a big fan of this kid right now. So 6,700 I don't think is too cheap for him. He's put up 40 and 50-something fantasy points in 2 of his last 3 games. He can get those blocks for you. He can rebound for you. I think he had 24 and 29 points. He did throw in a clunker in the middle of it, so I do think it's more a GPP play than a cash thing. But the kid's legit. He can play. On the other side of that game, you got Wade and Bosch. Wade especially has been just a little bit too cheap lately. He's been putting up 40-plus fantasy points and doing it at like numbers in the low 6s. They raise him up to 68 here, but I still think that's a little bit too cheap. I think he should be in like the 74, 75 range. So I think you're still getting a discount on Wade. Remember, this is a low-scoring game. The total's only expected to be like 190. So I wouldn't go with too many expensive plays from this game. Chris Bosh is also another guy, if you like him more than Wade. Bosh is getting very expensive. He's almost 8K right now. But again, he's been putting up numbers. He's been rebounding this year, which has been a knock on him as well. So him and Porzingis were 2 guys who I was not a big fan of at the beginning of the year. Kind of knocked both of them. And both of them have kind of surprised me this year. Bosh has picked up his rebounding numbers. And now that Porzingis is seeing 30-plus minutes, he's legitimately an option that you have to look at and consider. One of my favorite plays in the day. Here's going to be my slam dunk play of the day for you guys. You play centers against Philadelphia because Jahlil Okafor does not play much defense. Karl Anthony Towns is a center, and he is playing against Philadelphia. So Karl Anthony Towns is somebody who I'm definitely going to have in some of my lineups. The last 2 guys I wanted to talk about. I think Tim Duncan could be in a great spot here today at only 6,300, which would be an absolute steal. Let me explain the reasons why. With LaMarcus Aldridge out, the Spurs don't have a lot of big guys. They basically have Duncan, Diaw, and David West. Now, David West just came back from injury, so he can't play 30 or 40 minutes here. Diaw is a guy who's going to get a couple minutes here and there, but not get a ton of time, to be honest with you. So if LaMarcus Aldridge is out, Duncan last game was the guy who wound up seeing the increase in minutes, the increase in production, the increase in points, the increase in rebounds, everything. He had a big 40-plus fantasy point game, and I could see him having another one. Now, remember, his price is only 6,300. So if he's at 6,300 and he's going to have a 40-plus point fantasy game where he plays 30 to 35 minutes, that's going to be one of the best values on the day, and it's pretty safe. Now, obviously, we never know what's going to happen with Greg Popovich coach Spurs team, but if LaMarcus Aldridge is out, I definitely think I'm going to be rolling a lot of Tim Duncan in my lineup. And for some reason, people just don't like using this guy. I think it has to do with some games he only plays like 20 minutes. But in games where they need him, which they will if they have a short bench in this situation, he can play 30, 35 minutes and put up 40, 45 fantasy points like nothing. And nobody will even think twice about it. So I definitely like Tim Duncan in this spot. I think it's a great spot for Duncan. The other guy who I really like and think is mispriced is Markieff Morris. Morris's minutes are back to normal. He played 35 last game. He had only been playing like 15 or 20 minutes in every game before that. But he's back to playing 35 minutes now, and his price hasn't bounced back up. He's only 5,300. Before that little minor injury he had where he was playing less minutes and took a couple games off, we were paying $63, $64, $6,500 for this guy to put into our lineups. So at 53, I think he's a very good play. I think he's got a safe floor in the 20s and a ceiling that could go up to 40 or 45 points. Let's say 40 and be conservative. That's still almost 8x on value. So that would be a great situation for Markieff Morris if you could add him into your lineups as well. So that pretty much sums it up for the guys that I'm looking at here. Again, this is Benny Ricciardi with rotocurve.com. Thank you for joining me, and good luck tonight, guys. As always, stay classy.